Let's delve back into Victoria's lockdown. So much debate around it. Of course, we're hoping it does end on Thursday, at least in some form. We will see. But joining me live now is political consultant Jim Middleton. Jim, how do you think this debate is going right round Melbourne in particular, I suppose, more so than Victoria? I guess first and foremost, how necessary it is and how much people will be willing to give the government the benefit of the doubt if and when things get going again on Thursday.
Afternoon to you, Tom. Look, I think it's slightly less satisfactory, if I can put it that way, for the government, as for the Andrews government, than it was back at the time of the major lockdown last year. But I'm not sure that it's all one-way traffic, and I think that's probably indicated by the way in which the Prime Minister more recently has been dealing with this, which is that he's been pretty wary of criticising the Victorians in current circumstances, and indeed has been forced into a situation of providing income support for Victorians struggling. Now, if it were all one-way traffic, that is, if the Victorian government was being overwhelmingly criticised for the lockdown among voters, I don't think we would have seen that kind of behaviour on the part of the federal government. That said, I don't think it's without some cost to the Andrews government, but I'm not sure it's entirely one-way traffic, if I can put it that way. That said, also, Tom, I think the information that we received from the media conference this morning does indicate that it will be over here by Thursday, and then business can get back to something like normal, and people's lives can get back to something like normal.
Yeah, so I suppose you were touching on the sort of blame, and this time around it's certainly not as simple as saying Victoria really bungled hotel quarantine. There is the issue of QR codes and so on, but also the initial case certainly came out of South Australian quarantine, even though we've got the Delta variant now out of Victorian, it seems. But I guess the key question we keep asking at a national level, and some people think this is simplistic, others not, is why does Victoria lock down in a situation where, on all the evidence we have available, we wouldn't see such a big lockdown in New South Wales? Is that a question a lot of Victorians are asking, do you think?
Oh, look, it's certainly top of mind, if I can put it that way, for a lot of Victorians. Yes, indeed. Why has this happened so often? I think 4 times, including a couple of times in the last, or since the end of last year. It's certainly being asked, but I'm not sure at this stage just what the answers are. Some people have tried to suggest it has something to do with demographic differences between Melbourne and other cities. I'm not sure that that stacks up. Whether it has something to do with the fact that Melbourne is the coldest mainland capital, and as we know, COVID does seem to move around more readily in cold times. I don't know, but to date I have not heard a satisfactory answer as to why it is the case that Melbourne has been affected more often than elsewhere. But whether that too is affecting the standing of the Andrews government, I'm not sure. I haven't seen any data suggesting that to date. Maybe it will emerge in the wash, but certainly it is something that is a matter of interest and concern to many Victorians, no doubt about it.
You'd think if there's another major lockdown this winter, that really would get pointy. We'll certainly hope not. I'm not going to let you take coldest capital, though, in the mainland off Canberra, Jim. I take your point. There's a lot more people down there moving around in Melbourne, so perhaps not the risk that it is in Canberra.
We're not as wealthy or rich or as middle class as Canberra, that is for sure. And I've lived in both places, Tom.
No, I know you have. Hey, I just wanted to get your thoughts on this case. The family, well, the Billa Wheeler family they're called, being held on Christmas Island at the moment. The government with such a hard-line stance, I mean, the family, the parents actually arrived before the big decree from Kevin Rudd. So in terms of, following through on that, it doesn't really stack up. But is this just still a political equation from the Morrison government? This won't hurt them? Or will the lines today from the new Minister, Karen Andrews, perhaps some hope for the family?
Look, it does sound like there's been some shift in attitude from the very, very hard line that was adopted by Peter Dutton in his time as Immigration and Home Affairs Minister. No doubt about it. It does appear that Karen Andrews is trying to find a way of dealing with these 1,200 or so people who were stuck on Manus or on Nauru, as well as the Biloela family, as they're called. Whether that's New Zealand or the United States, well, that remains to be seen, but it does seem that there's at least a recognition among the members of the Morrison government that the current situation is untenable in one way or another. Now, as far as the Biloela family is concerned and this 3-year-old daughter, the one thing that strikes me about that is how is it that it took 10 days for a toddler, really, with an elevated temperature to get the kind of medical treatment that she is getting now. I do know that if it were one of my daughters who was in a similar situation with the threat of sepsis and pneumonia, I would expect them to be hospitalised within 24, if not 48 hours, and that has been the case. So I don't understand why it has taken so long, and I do hope that she recovers from here. But I do wonder also, just going back to your original question, Tom, whether there is some change in attitude on the part of Australians as far as the Biloela family in particular, but these other people who are in limbo are concerned. I haven't detected it to date, I've got to say, but maybe it's there. But certainly you would have thought that simply leaving these people in limbo is not a long-term solution, and sending them back to where they came from, in many cases, not tenable either.
Yeah, indeed. Look, as you alluded to there, it's not like it's hurt the coalition at elections, but eventually it just gets so many years, people say, sort it out. Jim Middleton, thank you. Happy Thursday night for you, and we hope lockdown ends then and you can get about your normal life.
Looking forward to it, Tom, and many thanks.
Jim.